Hi everyone, welcome to the Tesla Economist. Please hit the thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe.
Being a good investor requires taking an objective view, even when you're analysing the competition. As much as you love the company you're invested in, you have to still look at what the competition are up to, and you have to do so without blinders on. So NIO just had their NIO Day recently. So let's take a look at what advances the company is making and review the entire company to see how competitive they are against Tesla. And yes, I understand a lot of you hold Tesla shares and NIO, and I understand why. I used to also hold NIO, but sold them when I realised I wasn't investing in NIO itself, but rather just trying to spread my EV position, and eventually I realised I knew relatively little about the company when compared with Tesla. NIO stock then crashed down to about $1 after, and yes, I possibly do regret not rebuying my position again then. On NIO Day, William Li, the CEO, debuted their new four-door sedan, the ET7. The car itself doesn't look that bad, and the interior looks luxurious and tidy. In addition to that, the specifications are very impressive. So let's break it all down and see if they actually do offer anything over Tesla. The ET7 offers a 70 kilowatt hour, 100 kilowatt hour, and 150 kilowatt hour battery. They claim 360 watts per kg, which is very impressive. From Tesla's battery day, it's been calculated that the new 4680s are around 300 watts a kg, with the ability to improve them to about 380 watts per kg. Now, that's at the cell level though, not the pack level. With Tesla's new battery pack built into the car structure, Tesla should be getting a better watt per kg. Of course, that's now and not in 2 years' time, like NIO is saying. There was no mention of anything like a million-mile battery. It was just said that they will have a good battery life and higher charging efficiency, but nothing else was mentioned. And in a way, all these NIO battery specs are kind of moot, as none of it is proprietary to NIO, as all the batteries NIO uses are supplied by CATL. So this technology is available to all EVs. The ET7 starts at 448,000 yuan, which is about 69,160 US dollars, just for the base model with 70 kilowatt hour battery. Then 506,000 yuan, or 78,210 US dollars, for the 100 kilowatt hour battery. And we don't seem to have a price for the 150 kilowatt hour model, but I would say it would be above $90,000, which is a significant amount, and it's all very close to the Model S pricing. As far as performance is concerned, I was actually quite shocked that NIO could only get 0 to 100 in 3.9 seconds with a 150 kilowatt hour battery. Tesla's Model S gets that fast in about 2.3 seconds with only a 100 kilowatt hour battery. It just goes to show how much more efficient Tesla is at getting the most out of their batteries. As for the interior, it has a 12.8-inch center screen, but they've not opted for the widescreen option. The screen's ultimate purpose is entertainment for FSD or Robotaxis. A widescreen makes much more sense for this purpose. It's strange that NIO didn't go for a widescreen. Perhaps they were trying to copy the Model X and S. However, later in a few months perhaps, we will see a new Model X and S, and dollars for donuts, they will have wide screens. It's as if they just copied the Tesla's old format style from 2012, with an additional smaller screen behind the steering wheel too. Neither does it appear to have an internal camera. This would really be an essential item for a robotaxi. If someone damages a vehicle, then it would be recorded and tracked back to who was using the vehicle at the time. NIO has their AI bot inside called Nomi. To me, this feels like a gadget really, perhaps even a little bit tacky, but they seem to be going with it. All I can see is it's just further adding to the cost and manufacturing complexity. As China is NIO's main market, then the car will be more designed to those customers, particularly when it's NIO's home turf. When cars are this price point in China, the owner often has a driver. This means Chinese expect more comfort in the rear, as that's where the owner will spend their time in the car. For example, BMW offer a 5 Series version with a longer wheelbase just in China for this purpose. I believe in the early days, Tesla had to make some adjustments to their rear of their Model S in China because of this. On the other hand, Tesla are so close to FSD now, who needs a driver anyway? NIO uses 8 megapixel autonomous driving cameras. It's like they've just thrown all the best specs for everything they can find just to appear good on paper. To compare, Tesla only has 1.2 megapixel camera, but when you have 8 cameras, the price adds up. An 8 megapixel camera is much more expensive. However, NIO has 11 of these 8 megapixel cameras in the ET7. Tesla has already proven their hardware is sufficient for FSD using 1.2 megapixel camera and just 8 of them. The fact NIO requires so many more cameras at such better quality could be inferred that their software isn't as good, as it needs so much more data to do what Tesla is doing with so much less, feeding into their neural network, and that adds dramatically to NIO's cost. But perhaps they're playing the long game. When Robert Noyce was working at Fairchild Semiconductors, they initially started selling transistors at a huge loss, knowing that after economies of scale kick in, the technology improves, they'll be profitable. And then he went on to co-found Intel. Perhaps that's what NIO is attempting to do here. Inevitably, 8 megapixel cameras will come down in price. I guess we'll find out. Lee goes on to say that the 8 megapixel camera can have a maximum detection range of a human of 223 meters, compared to 74 meters for a 1.2 megapixel camera. So perhaps that's why Tesla is fine with a 1.2 megapixel camera, as 74 meters is a much further distance than a Tesla should ever need to come to a complete stop. NIO also uses LiDAR, which, aside from Tesla, is found in every other car trying to capture autonomous driving, like Waymo or Rivian. Elon has openly stated LiDAR is a fool's errand, and anyone relying on LiDAR is doomed. Elon should know, as he uses LiDAR to land his rockets. So why is Elon saying this? A big reason is cost. They were thousands of dollars, but have actually come down in price a bit since. However, they're still not cheap, and this will add significantly to the cost of the car for even further. NIO won't tell us how much they spend on their LiDARs, and it would appear that they have 3 of them. However, compared to other cars, like Waymo, this looks a lot more aesthetic, and they've done a really good job of integrating them into the car. Elon says that AI should drive the car like the vision of a human. We don't drive by throwing lasers in every direction. With LiDAR, if an object is moving, then it can't be identified. Whether it's a human, dog, or plastic bag on the road, the LiDAR doesn't know. So imagine if it has to stop suddenly for a plastic bag. As humans, we know that we can drive through a plastic bag or something light. The LiDAR doesn't, and could break immediately, resulting in the risk of someone running into you from behind. The neural network simply can't use LiDAR to learn. It can't adapt the data. What LiDAR is useful for is if you've mapped out the roads already. There are lots of roads in the world to map, and they're often being altered or suffer roadworks. It just doesn't feel like the practical solution, unnecessarily over-engineered. Okay, and maybe there will be more than one other way to achieve FSD. Mapping roads and LiDAR might also work. However, one might have better results than the other, and one is also a lot cheaper and more practical solution than the other. Tesla manufactures their own FSD chip. NIO are using NVIDIA's new chip, the Drive Orin, known as Adam. They say this won't be starting until 2022, so that could be either at the start of the year or the end of the year. They're being coy about what part of the year. For that reason, you would assume the end of the year. Otherwise, it would have been more prudent to have said mid-2022 or early 2022. As far as I can tell, Adam simply means that NIO have put 4 NVIDIA Drive Orin chips together, collectively producing an alleged 1,016 TOPS, or trillion operations per second. The ET7 will be the first vehicle to use the new NVIDIA chips. In April 2019, Tesla announced their new chip, which has 144 TOPS to compare. And as Lee goes on to compare, that is 7 times more TOPS than Tesla. In fact, the entire presentation was taking shots at Tesla, comparing Tesla's old tech with their future tech, and making it sound like they are actually better. So anyway, before Tesla created their own chip, they actually also use an NVIDIA chip too. The Tesla chip was supposedly 21 times faster than the previous NVIDIA chip, but is created at 80% of the cost they were paying for NVIDIA, and only uses 15 more watts, 72 watts for the Tesla chip compared to 57 watts from NVIDIA. That's a lot more speed for only a fraction more power. We don't know what power consumption the final configuration of NVIDIA's self-driving computer will have, but it's estimated that the new Orin chip will consume around 60 to 70 watts on its own, or in other words, 240 to 280 watts in total, or 4 times as much as Tesla. This would noticeably affect the range for when FSD is being used, as the chip will consume that much more battery power. The fact that Tesla's chip is 1/5 the price of the previous NVIDIA chip they were using begs to ask, how much are NIO paying for 4 of NVIDIA's latest, most powerful chips? Again, looks good on paper, but is a lot of cost. So yes, NIO's chip will have about 7 times more TOPS. But will is the operative word. They don't now, and won't until 2022, or maybe longer, who can say. Tesla released theirs in 2019 already. That's a 3 to 4 years difference. In chip terms, that's a long time. Tesla's chip is designed for Tesla cars and Tesla software. NVIDIA will be creating a one-size-fits-all solution. And it doesn't stop there. NIO probably couldn't even achieve the FSD without a chip this fast. Why? Because NIO uses LiDAR too, which requires a lot more processing power, whereas Tesla only has to process images from 8 cameras. So again, not everything is as it appears. If you can find a better solution, you don't need to over-engineer the products. Now, if NIO are purchasing NVIDIA's latest chips for their cars, then that has got to be in the region of 10 times the price Tesla are paying. Oh, except NIO have 4 of these chips, so that's 40 times as much. Oh, and another Tesla chip is coming too. If I can recall, it'd be ready in about 3 years from battery day, so perhaps mid 2022, and it would be 4 times more powerful again, breaking Moore's law of a chip doubling every 24 months. So also bear in mind that this chip isn't out for possibly 2 years. Tesla's was out almost 2 years ago. That's almost a 4-year discrepancy. And the new NVIDIA chip is only 204 TOPS per chip if you don't use 4 of them, compared to Tesla's 144 TOPS. That's not much difference. NIO just decided to use 4 of them. NIO has battery swapping, or battery as a service as I like to call it, BaaS. With all these different battery sizes, it just makes battery as a service much harder, and BaaS is how NIO thinks it has differentiated itself in the market, despite Tesla coming up with it first and dropping the concept years ago. Basically, when your battery is flat, you go to the battery swapping station and swap your battery. Currently, a technician has to drive your car in the station and do it for you, but soon the car will be able to do it itself. It takes a few minutes if there is no queue, which I believe there often is. Of course, users have to pay for this service. It's actually not even that cheap either, about $150 to $230 a month, depending on the 70 to 100 kilowatt battery. That's as much as people spend on gas with ICE cars, and you don't own your own battery. But the car is $10,000 cheaper to purchase with BaaS, as you aren't having to pay for the battery. It does take less time than having to charge at a charging station, which is why NIO thinks it's so amazing and their competitive advantage. But what about economies of location? Maybe it saves a few minutes compared to charging, but what if it takes you 10 extra minutes to get there than the nearest supercharger? In addition to this, I think charging is only a temporary issue. With battery tech improving at this rate, it won't be long until we're driving around with 1,000-kilometer range, and charging will only take a few minutes anyway. So I don't think battery swapping technology was the right path, and they're kind of stuck with it now. On top of that, there are only 10,000 superchargers in America right now. The Biden administration wants to add 500,000 just in America. They will be everywhere. You can charge whenever you park anywhere, at work, at the mall, or a doctor's appointment. You can't take a battery swapping to the same level of ubiquity. There was no mention of NIO introducing a heat pump in their new car. If they did, they would have definitely mentioned it, as the heat pump improves range and performance significantly. So why would NIO not introduce them into their cars? Well, only Tesla makes them, and NIO doesn't really make anything like that for themselves. They outsource everything. In fact, believe it or not, NIO don't make their own cars. A company called JAC manufactures all their vehicles. Elon has actually said that the industry is really going to come down to manufacturing now. It's all going to be about how fast and cheap you can mass produce these cars. Without a doubt, Tesla will invest more money into manufacturing than any other company has in history. Elon has said they aim to increase production speed by 10 to 100 times, as in cars will come off the production line that much faster. There are no signs of NIO catching up or making any advances in overall production. I guess they have very little control, and JAC has less incentive than NIO to beat Tesla. On battery day, we also saw that Tesla will make the battery pack out of the structure of the car. He was vocal on how this is the future of manufacturing, and anyone that doesn't take this route simply won't last. But you can't do that if you have a battery swapping service. The EV industry is growing so rapidly, there is enough space for NIO at the moment, as Tesla can't make enough cars yet, predominantly due to battery constraint. So bear that in mind. How will NIO be able to ramp up without any proactive battery solution of their own? The CCP would likely do what is necessary to keep NIO going, but what's going to happen when the likes of Volkswagen and Daimler suddenly want batteries? There won't be enough to go around. If you put the NIO ET7 up against the Tesla Model S, the NIO destroys the Tesla on paper. It's almost like they've done that on purpose, so they can just beat them on every figure, except Tesla is able to do more and better without the excessive specifications. This is perfect timing, as Tesla are about to unveil their new Model S shortly, which I'm hoping will put the ET7 in its place. To be honest, it looks to me like NIO know they can't compete with Tesla, but have done a good job of appearing to beat them. Remember, all these specs they use to compare with Tesla are Teslas today, with a NIO that isn't out for a couple more years. But NIO have gone all out on specifications, making it appear much better on paper. A huge 150 kilowatt battery that gives more range than any current Tesla, although Tesla will bring out a Model S soon too that has over 1,000 kilometer range, if you measure it in NEDC like NIO does. and that comes out this year. It looks like they've just copied the Model S. The entire presentation is about comparing Tesla. They obviously don't have the vision, not using widescreen in the center, for example. And they even copied the Model S door handles. There doesn't seem to be anything proprietary here. The belief is that because it's just 1/10 the market cap size of Tesla, that it still has 10 times more to go, and so much more potential than Tesla, because no one can believe Tesla will go up another 10 times, but NIO could. I don't have a clue how NIO are able to expect to have a profit margin with all these excessive specifications and more expensive manufacturing processes than Tesla. I don't know, is it possible that the CCP are just backing this company to such an extent that they are just throwing so much money at making the best car, on paper, that they think it will sell really well and create a decent market share, despite possibly losing a fortune on every sale, and hoping within time that the price of the technology will come down so much that there'll eventually be some profit margins for them? And I believe it has had the intended impact. But when you get down to it, it's a bit of smoke and mirrors. Anyway, always good to stay on your toes. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe.